The betrayal. The cold stone floor bit into my cheek as consciousness slowly returned, bringing with it waves of throbbing pain that radiated from my ribs. The dungeon reeked of mold and despair, iron bars casting long shadows across my bruised arms in the dim torchlight. 3 days. 3 days of relentless questioning, 3 days of fists connecting with flesh when I insisted I didn't know where Calder had gone. Your mate wouldn't just disappear, the alpha of the Northern Territory had snarled, his knuckles still bloody from my face. But I had believed in Calder's love, believed he would come for me. How naive I had been. The heavy door creaked open, its sound echoing off the wet stone walls like a death knell. The guard's boots clicked against the floor as he approached my cell, a cruel smile twisting his scarred features. "Got news about your precious husband," he said, his voice dripping with malicious satisfaction. "Seems he made quite the deal with our pack. Traded information about your territory's defenses for safe passage across our lands." My heart stopped beating for a moment, the world around me seeming to tilt on its axis. "Oh, and he left something else behind too," the guard continued, pulling out a folded piece of parchment. A signed confession stating that his Omega wife was the real spy. Clever man, pinning his crimes on someone who can't defend herself. The world shattered around me like glass hitting stone. Calder hadn't been captured. He'd thrown me to the wolves, literally, to save his own skin, branding me a traitor to cover his escape. Rage burned hotter than my physical pain as I pressed my face against the cold bars. "I'll make him pay," I whispered to the darkness, my voice hoarse but filled with newfound determination. "I'll find him, and I'll make him suffer for what he's done to me." Even as I spoke the words, exhaustion pulled at my bones. In my dreams that night, someone reached through the shadows, gentle hands, kind eyes, a voice that promised freedom. When I woke, the cell was empty, the vision gone, yet something had stirred in my chest. Perhaps my story wasn't over. Perhaps this betrayal was just the beginning of something greater than I could ever imagine. The Alpha's protection. Is this the rebel spy? The question sliced through the council chamber like a blade, making my skin crawl as dozens of eyes burned into me. I kept my gaze fixed on the polished stone floor, counting the silver veins that ran through it as though they might offer escape from this public humiliation. The scent of aggression and contempt surrounded me, pine mixed with metal, leather tinged with disgust, all of it pressing against my senses until breathing itself became an act of defiance. Commander Voss circled me like a predator, his boots clicking against the stone in a rhythm designed to unnerve. "Answer when addressed, Omega," he spat, the title itself a slur in his mouth. I flinched, my chains rattling in the sudden silence. "I was Calder Ravenclaw's mate," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. Voss snorted, his scent sharpening with satisfaction. "And yet he left you behind when our forces approached." "Some mate." His mockery found eager ears among the council members, their chuckles carrying the sour undertone of superiority that alphas and betas always directed toward omegas. "Where has Calder gone? What were his plans?" Commander Voss demanded, leaning so close I could feel his hot breath against my cheek. When I remained silent, not from loyalty, but because I truly didn't know, his patience snapped. "Your alpha asked you a question." The back of his hand connected with my cheek, sending me stumbling sideways, the metallic taste of blood filling my mouth. I braced myself for more blows, as I had learned to do over years with Calder. Instead, a growl erupted from the head of the chamber, primal, territorial, and undeniably dominant. "Enough." Alpha Ronan's voice cut through the room like winter wind, freezing everyone in place. The air shifted immediately, his powerful scent of mountain snow and cedar smoke overwhelming all others. "You will not touch what is mine without permission, Commander." The possessive claim sent an inexplicable shiver down my spine, even as confusion clouded my thoughts. Since when was I his? I dared to lift my gaze, finding Alpha Ronan standing now, his massive frame tense with barely controlled fury. His ice-blue eyes, rimmed with alpha gold, locked with mine for a heartbeat, and that strange electrical current I'd felt in my dreams sparked between us again. He looked away first, addressing his council. This Omega may have information valuable to our territory. She will be treated accordingly. Commander Voss's scent soured with indignation. With respect, Alpha, she's the enemy's cast off. Why waste resources on? Question my decisions again, Commander, and you'll find yourself patrolling our southernmost border through winter, Ronan interrupted, his voice deceptively soft but carrying the unmistakable weight of Alpha command. The room fell silent, tension crackling like lightning before a storm. Ronan descended from his elevated position, approaching me with measured steps. Despite myself, I couldn't look away from him, the fluid grace of his movements, the controlled power evident in every line of his body. He stopped before me, close enough that his scent enveloped me completely, somehow both threatening and oddly comforting. You've been kept in poor conditions, he stated. Not a question, but an observation. This ends now. You will be moved to appropriate quarters and provided proper care. Murmurs of protest rose from the council members but died immediately when Ronan's shoulders stiffened. In exchange, he continued as though there had been no interruption, you will cooperate with our questions about Calder's operations. His eyes searched mine, looking for something I couldn't name. Do you understand the choice before you, Omega? Comfort and respect in exchange for information. Choice. The word itself seemed foreign, a concept I'd nearly forgotten existed. When had I last been offered a choice rather than simply told what would happen to me? You need not decide immediately, he said, his voice pitched low enough that only I could hear. But know this, no harm will come to you under my protection, regardless of your decision. The gentleness in his tone threatened to unravel something tightly wound inside me. I swallowed hard, finding my voice at last. I will cooperate, I said, surprised by the steadiness of my words. I have nothing to hide. A flash of approval crossed Ronan's features before his expression returned to its usual stoic mask. Good. He called to a young beta. Escort our guest to the East Wing quarters and see that she receives everything she needs. As I was led away, I couldn't help but notice the silent challenge Ronan had issued to his council with my improved status, from prisoner to guest in one declaration. And beneath my confusion and weariness, a dangerous, foreign feeling took root, the first fragile tendril of hope. Awakening power. The East Wing quarters were nothing like the dungeon cell I'd occupied since my capture. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting warm patterns across polished wooden floors. I ran my fingers over the soft bedding, marveling at the simple luxury after weeks of sleeping on damp stone. Is everything satisfactory? Ronan stood in the doorway, filling the frame with his imposing presence. Despite his casual stance, power radiated from him like heat from a flame. I dropped my gaze instinctively. Yes, Alpha. Thank you. He made a low sound in his throat. You may look at me when we speak. I'm not Calder. The mention of my former mate sent ice through my veins. How did you know that? Ronan's lips curved into a humorless smile. That he trained you to keep your eyes down. I've seen enough abused Omegas to recognize the signs. He entered, closing the door behind him. My heart rate increased instantly, my body tensing. Ronan noticed, keeping his distance as he settled into a chair near the window. We need to discuss Calder's operations, he said, his tone businesslike. Specifically, his raids on outlying territories. What can you tell me about them? I perched on the edge of the bed. He rarely shared military strategy with me. I was kept separate from pack business. Ronan's expression remained neutral, but his scent shifted subtly. What about his allies? Other pack leaders he communicated with? I closed my eyes, trying to recall details. There was an alpha from the southern territories, Malachi, I think. They spoke often. And someone from the council, though I never learned their name. Ronan leaned forward. You're certain? A council member? I nodded. They came late at night, always cloaked. Calder thought I was asleep, but... But your senses are better than he realized, Ronan finished, surprising me with his perception. You survived by being more than he believed you to be. A knock interrupted us. A female beta entered with a tray of food, simple fare, but the aromas made my stomach clench with hunger. Thank you, Serena, Ronan acknowledged her. Eat, he instructed me. With each bite, I felt myself becoming more present in my body, more aware of sensations beyond pain and cold. When I finished, Ronan nodded with approval. Better. Now tell me about the maps. I blinked in surprise. What maps? The territory charts Calder kept. Where they were stored, who had access to them. I found no reason to deceive him. In his private study, behind a false panel in the eastern wall. Only he and Commander Ellis could access them. Ronan bloomed with satisfaction. You've just confirmed information we suspected but couldn't verify. Thank you. The door burst open without warning. Commander Voss strode in, his aggressive scent preceding him like a wave. Alpha, the scouts report movement along the. He stopped abruptly. Why is the prisoner unrestrained? Ronan rose, displeasure evident. She is a guest under my protection, as I made clear earlier. Voss scoffed. A guest? She's Calder's mate, probably still loyal to him despite being discarded. He stepped toward me. Aren't you, little Omega? Something in me snapped. I stood my ground, meeting Voss's gaze directly. I was never loyal to Calder. I was his prisoner, just as I was yours until today. Voss's hand shot out, clearly intending to strike me. Instead of cowering, I moved, ducking under his arm and striking upward with the heel of my palm, connecting with his jaw before he could recover. Ronan was between us instantly, his back to me as he faced his commander. The Alpha's scent had transformed completely, filled now with territorial fury. You have forgotten yourself, Commander, Ronan said, his voice deceptively quiet but thrumming with power. Leave now, while you still hold your rank. Voss backed toward the door. This isn't finished, he growled before stalking out. When the door closed, Ronan turned to me. Where did you learn to counter an attack like that? I rubbed my palm. I didn't. I just reacted. A smile, the first genuine one I'd seen from him, transformed Ronan's severe features. Good instincts. They'll serve you well here. He moved toward the door, then paused. Rest now. Tomorrow we continue our discussions, and perhaps explore what other surprises you might be hiding beneath that carefully constructed mask of submission. After he left, I stood motionless, my heart racing with the realization that I'd fought back, actually fought back, and instead of punishment, I'd received approval. Something was awakening inside me, something that had lain dormant through years of Calder's control. Something that resonated with Alpha Ronan's presence in ways that both terrified and exhilarated me. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive. The Moonfire Legacy. I found myself drawn to the window overlooking the training grounds, watching Ronan's warriors practice their formations with focused intensity. The morning light caught in my copper hair, and I felt oddly peaceful for the first time in years. You're studying my warriors' training patterns, Ronan observed from behind me. My head snapped up, amber eyes widening before I schooled my expression. Alpha. Gathering intelligence for escape, or simply curious, he asked, moving closer. I considered him, weighing my response. Both, I finally admitted. Though I have nowhere to go if I did escape. The simple truth seemed to affect him. I brought you something, he said, pulling a small wrapped package from his pocket. My wariness was immediate, but I watched as he placed the package on the table rather than forcing me to take it. I unwrapped the cloth to reveal a silver pendant, a crescent moon wrapped around a small blue stone. It was my mother's, he explained. She said it protected Omegas. I reached for the pendant with trembling fingers. The moment my skin touched the cool metal, something flicked across my consciousness, recognition, shock, confusion, before the world tilted and darkness claimed me. I was dimly aware of strong arms catching me as I fell, the unexpected contact sending a jolt through my system. My skin burned beneath his touch as visions flooded my mind. "The Moonfire," I whispered, my voice distant and strange. "They're hunting the Moonfire blood." I felt Ronan freeze, those words hitting him like a physical blow. When my eyes flew open, staring through him rather than at him, I gasped out more fragments. "They're coming. The council knows. The red stones are gone. Lyra." Ronan's voice called me back from whatever vision had claimed me. I blinked, finding myself in his arms, confusion clouding my thoughts. "What do you know of Moonfire blood?" he demanded, his voice harsh with urgency. I stiffened in his embrace, and he released me immediately, helping me back into my chair. I pressed my palms to my temples. "I don't. I saw something. A memory, maybe." My gaze dropped to the pendant on the floor. My mother had one just like this. The stone was red, not blue, but otherwise identical. Ronan's expression grew intense. Red stones were given to Moonfire bloodline females, blue to their protectors. "What do you remember of your family before Calder?" I shook my head. "Almost nothing. Calder said they died in a territory dispute when I was young." His jaw tightened at the convenient explanation. "And you have no memories of them at all?" I hesitated. "Flashes sometimes. A woman singing. A house near water. Nothing substantial." I looked up at him. But the pendant triggered something more. "The pendant is yours, regardless of what you remember," he said firmly. "It was meant for Omega protection." My fingers closed around it possessively just as a knock interrupted us. Ronan's head scout entered with urgent news. "Alpha, forgive the intrusion. The eastern border patrols report movement, Calder's forces approaching from the northeast." My sense spiked with fear. "How many?" Ronan asked sharply. 3 units at least. "They're moving with purpose, not raiding." Ronan rose, alert. "Double the patrols. I'll meet with the commanders within the hour." When we were alone again, I whispered, "He's coming for me." Ronan's wolf paced beneath his skin, territorial instincts flaring. "Calder will not set foot in my territory, and he certainly won't take you anywhere." "You don't understand what he is," I said quietly. "What he's capable of." "I understand more than you realize," Ronan countered. "Calder isn't just a territorial alpha with ambitions. He's a council spy, tasked specifically with hunting Omegas with Moonfire bloodlines." My sharp intake of breath confirmed his suspicion. "The council has been systematically eliminating Moonfire bloodlines for generations," he continued, disguising the purges as territorial disputes. "Why would they do that?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Power," he answered simply. "Moonfire Omegas are the only ones capable of challenging alpha dominance. Their abilities, when fully developed, can match or exceed alpha strength." Understanding dawned in my eyes. "That's why Calder kept me weak, isolated, controlled." Ronan nodded grimly. "And why he's so determined to reclaim you now? The pendant triggered something in you, memories, perhaps abilities that he's worked for years to suppress." I processed this information, expecting to feel fear or denial. Instead, a spark ignited in my amber eyes, determination, not defeat. "Teach me," I said, straightening my spine. "If what you're saying is true, I need to know how to defend myself. How to be more than what he made me." Pride, unexpected and fierce, bloomed in Ronan's chest. This was no longer the broken Omega who had arrived in chains. This was a warrior awakening to her true nature. And he would be there to guide her every step of the way. Luna's ascension. The attack came at dawn, just as Ronan had predicted. I stood at the eastern battlements, the Moonfire pendant warm against my chest, watching as Calder's forces emerged from the tree-line like shadows given form. 3 weeks of intense training with Ronin had awakened abilities I never knew I possessed. My senses were sharper, my reflexes faster, and something deeper, something ancient and powerful, stirred within my blood. There, I pointed to a cluster of trees where movement caught my eye. Archers positioned in the oak grove, and ground forces using the ravine for cover. Ronin's commanders exchanged glances of amazement. My enhanced perception had proven invaluable in their defensive preparations. "You're certain about their numbers?" Commander Hayes asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by respect. 47 total, I confirmed without hesitation. Calder is with the central unit. I can sense him. The bond that had once chained me to my former mate now served as a tracking beacon, though it felt different now, weaker, corrupted by his betrayal and my growing connection to Ronin. "Alpha," one of the scouts called out, "they're requesting parley under the white flag." Ronin's expression darkened. "Calder wants to negotiate. This should be interesting." "Don't go," I urged, grasping his arm. "It's a trap. He never honors agreements." "I know," Ronin said, covering my hand with his. "But refusing would make us appear weak to both our packs and his. We'll meet him at the neutral ground, but with full escort." The confrontation took place in the valley between our territories. Calder stood arrogantly at the center of his formation, his dark hair gleaming in the morning sun, his smile as false as ever. "Ronin," he called out jovially. "I've come to collect what's mine." "I see nothing here that belongs to you," Ronin replied coldly. Calder's gaze found me among Ronin's warriors, and his expression shifted to one of possessive hunger. "My mate. Return her, and we'll leave peacefully." "Your mate." I stepped forward, feeling the moonfire power surge through me like liquid lightning. "I was never your mate, Calder. I was your prisoner, your victim, your scapegoat." His face twisted with rage. "You ungrateful little—" "I know what you are," I interrupted, my voice carrying farther than it should have, resonating with newfound power. "Council spy. Moonfire hunter. Murderer of innocents." Gasps echoed from both sides at my accusations. Calder's pack members shifted uneasily, clearly, some were learning the truth for the first time. "Lies," Calder snarled, but his scent betrayed his fear. "She's been poisoned against me." "Have I?" I asked, pulling the pendant from beneath my shirt. The blue stone blazed with inner light, and I felt my bloodline awakening fully for the first time. "Then explain why you've spent years suppressing my abilities. Why you kept me weak and isolated. Why you framed me for your own crimes." The moonfire power flowed through me like a river of starlight. I could feel every heartbeat on the battlefield, sense every lie, every truth, every hidden intention. "You want me back because you know what I'm becoming," I continued, my amber eyes now glowing with silver fire. "What I've always been, despite your efforts to bury it." Calder's composure cracked completely. "You think Ronin wants you for yourself? He's using you, just like I did. The moment you're no longer useful." "Enough." Ronin's voice cut through the air like a blade, but when he looked at me, his expression was soft with something deeper than protection. "Lyra has already made her choice. She stays here, as my Luna, if she'll have me." The formal claiming sent shockwaves through both packs. Luna, not just a protected guest, but the Alpha's chosen mate. I turned to Ronin, seeing the truth in his ice-blue eyes. This wasn't political maneuvering or strategy. This was real. "Yes," I said simply, and felt our souls begin to intertwine. Calder's howl of rage shattered the momentary peace. "If I can't have her, no one can." He shifted partially, claws extending as he lunged toward me. But I was no longer the terrified Omega he had broken years ago. Power exploded from me in waves of silver light. Calder's attack stopped mid-leap as if he'd hit an invisible wall, then he was flung backward with such force that he crashed into his own warriors. The battlefield fell silent except for the sound of Calder struggling to breathe. When he finally looked up at me, his eyes held something I'd never seen there before, fear. "This isn't over," he wheezed. "Yes, it is," I replied, my voice carrying the absolute authority of awakened Moonfire blood. "Challenge this pack again, and I'll finish what should have been done long ago." Calder's forces retreated without another word, carrying their defeated leader between them. As the dust settled, I felt Ronan's hand slip into mine. The mating bond solidified between us, warm and right in a way that my forced connection to Calder never had been. "My Luna," he murmured, pride and love evident in every word. "My Alpha," I replied, knowing I had finally found where I belonged. Months later, I stood on the same battlements where I'd once watched for threats, now heavy with Ronan's air and surrounded by a pack that truly loved me. The Moonfire pendant rested over my heart, no longer a reminder of loss but a symbol of power reclaimed. Commander Voss approached, his respect genuine now. "Luna, the quarterly reports from the Allied territories." I smiled, accepting the documents. From betrayed prisoner to respected Luna, the transformation still amazed me sometimes. Ronan joined me as the sun set, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. I leaned back against his solid warmth, watching our warriors train in the distance, knowing our child would grow up free and strong. "Only one," I said, turning in his arms. "That it took me so long to realize my own worth." He kissed me deeply, and I tasted our future in that kiss, challenges overcome, love deepened, and a legacy that would echo through generations. The broken Omega was gone forever. In her place stood a Luna who would protect her pack with Moonfire and claws, loved by an Alpha who had seen her true strength from the very beginning. The end.